Yo, what is up, guys? Ben back here with another banger for the SMHS Runs YouTube channel. I'm here, and today I will be saying Jakob Ingebrigtsen 1,500 times. Andrew, I just edited the video and posted it like the day I'm recording this, so it's the 5th right now. So, oh shoot, man, this mic is... 1 second, guys. I don't know how to use this thing. I'm recording this on my old laptop because I don't have Andrew's nice camera right now. So we have a nice camera though. Andrew's video had it, so future videos strictly the good camera. But today we're going with a laptop. So as Andrew did, he wrote down 1,500 twos, and so I've written down 1,500 threes because 3 is the magic number. So Jakob Ingebrigtsen is going to get first, but I like the number 3, so we wrote 3s. 1,500 of them for proof. Here's the word count, 1,500 characters. So that's what I'm about to do. I want to keep it a buck. If Stewie McSwain had qualled, I'm a Stewie fan for life. But Stewie sold a bag, didn't even qual, so we're going to Jakob because I don't like Josh Kerr, and I like Jakob more. So, quick little water break before we get into this. Oh. Alrighty. Okay. It took Andrew like the whole video he had was like 30 minutes, but I think he probably did it in like 25 minutes. So I'm gonna try to beat that today. So yeah, let's get right into it. Oh, okay. And we're starting off. I'm gonna delete 1 3 every time I say it, so I know I say it enough. Ready? Oh, first, actually, 1 second. I need to make sure I'm pronouncing this correctly because this is a difficult name. Wait 1 sec. Google Translate. Gotta use the Google Translate voice thing to make sure I'm doing it right. Okay, so here's Jakob's name. How do you just say it? Oh, here we go.
Jakob Ingebrigtsen.
Whoa.
Jakob Ingebrigtsen.
Jakob Ingebrigtsen. I'm gonna go with that. So we'll see if that's right, but let's start. Jakob Ingebrigtsen, 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 Jakob Ingebrigtsen. Holy, that is terrible. That is so bad. I've deleted like 57 threes. So they basically like just started the race. They're going around turn 1. Jakob Ingebrigtsen, 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 Jakob Ingebrigtsen. Oh my gosh. This is terrible. Why'd I choose this long of a name, bro? Jakob, shorten your name, bro, for real. Jakob Ingebrigtsen, 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 Jakob Ingebrigtsen. Such a tongue twister, bro. Ingebrigtsen, Jakob 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 Ingebrigtsen. Oh, I'm never gonna finish. Holy cow. I have done like 252. Jakob Ingebrigtsen, 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 Jakob Ingebrigtsen. Jakob Ingebrigtsen, 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 Jakob Ingebrigtsen. Oh my gosh. Almost. I've done 408. Jakob Ingebrigtsen, 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 Jakob Ingebrigtsen. Oh my gosh, Jakob Ingebrigtsen, Jakob Ingebrigtsen. I gotta stop and say it again because I don't even know what I'm saying. Jakob Ingebrigtsen, 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 Jakob Ingebrigtsen. Jakob Ingebrigtsen, 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 Jakob Ingebrigtsen. Oh my gosh! Oh, we need a water break. Oh my gosh. I don't know what Andrew Tate is saying. This is terrible. Do it for Jakob though. Jakob, if you lose, bro. Oh. Okay. I got water on myself. Okay. Alright, let's lock in again. Jakob Ingebrigtsen, 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 Jakob. I'm just gonna get bored. Jakob Ingebrigtsen, Jakob Ingebrigtsen, Jakob Ingebrigtsen, Jakob Ingebrigtsen, Jakob Ingebrigtsen, Jakob Ingebrigtsen, Jakob Ingebrigtsen. Jakob Ingebrigtsen, 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 Jakob Ingebrigtsen. Oh, that one. Jakob Ingebrigtsen, 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 Jakob Ingebrigtsen. Jakob Ingebrigtsen, 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 Jakob Ingebrigtsen. Oh my gosh. I've done. How many have I done? 780 to go. Jakob Ingebrigtsen, Jakob Ingebrigtsen, Jakob Ingebrigtsen, Jakob Ingebrigtsen. Whoa. I mean, they're past 800, so they're a little. Well, maybe. Is that actually halfway? I'm not good at math. They're basically halfway through the race. So I think Jakob's. I don't think actually Jakob's going to be leading. I think Jakob's going to be sitting right on whoever the leader's shoulder is. I think Cole Hawker is going to be with him too. I think Josh Kerr is going to be leading, which is, I think it's a hot take, but I think Josh Kerr is going to be leading. But yeah, I think he's going to be sitting behind him. I don't know. I can't think right now. Just Jakob Ingebrigtsen. Oh, that's one. Just going through my head right now. But yeah, I think he'll be sitting behind, and then I'll tell you what he's going to do after I get to like 400 or whatever. Jakob Ingebrigtsen, 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 Jakob Ingebrigtsen. Yeah, like even when I try and speed run it, it's just like you can't go any faster. Jakob Ingebrigtsen, 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 Jakob Ingebrigtsen. Oh, if you hear that, that's my alarm to remind me that I have work. So hopefully it doesn't make me late for work. Jakob Ingebrigtsen, 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 Jakob Ingebrigtsen. Jakob Ingebrigtsen, 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 Jakob Ingebrigtsen. Oh, I made it to the point where like I don't have to scroll up to the top anymore. We're at 500 to go. 506. Okay. Finish strong. Jakob Ingebrigtsen, 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 Jakob Ingebrigtsen. Oh. Jakob Ingebrigtsen, 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 Jakob Ingebrigtsen. Jakob Ingebrigtsen, 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 Jakob Ingebrigtsen. I should make like a rap out of this. Jakob Ingebrigtsen, 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 Jakob Ingebrigtsen. 390 to go. So I'm gonna say at this point in the race, I still think Jakob's behind Josh Kerr. I think like Josh Kerr, right here up ahead, and then Jakob like right on his tail, but like just chilling right behind him. I think Yard and the Goose is gonna be right there too. Cole Hawker, I think he's gonna have died, but he's gonna have to kick, and he's gonna kick for the bronze. And I think that yeah, that's what will be happening at 400 to go. Jakob Ingebrigtsen, 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 Jakob Ingebrigtsen. I don't understand. Mr. B said Logan Paul 100,000 times. Like Logan Paul, Logan Paul, Logan Paul, Logan Paul. I guess that's a lot faster, but still. Jakob Ingebrigtsen, 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 Jakob Ingebrigtsen. 184. So they're just hitting the 200. I think Jakob's gonna, at this point, he's gonna get right on Josh Kerr's shoulder on the outside, almost lane 2. I think Yard is gonna be in 4th. I think Cole Hawker's gonna be 3rd, like right behind Josh Kerr, and Yard's behind him, and then Jakob on the outside in lane 2 on Kerr's shoulder. And yeah. Jakob Ingebrigtsen, 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 Jakob Ingebrigtsen. Last 3 lines, guys. Almost. Jakob Ingebrigtsen, Jakob Ingebrigtsen, Jakob Ingebrigtsen, Jakob Ingebrigtsen, Jakob Ingebrigtsen, Jakob Ingebrigtsen, Jakob Ingebrigtsen. Jakob Ingebrigtsen, 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 Jakob Ingebrigtsen. 78. So that means 78 meters. They're basically on the home stretch. I think that Jakob's gonna swing wide slingshot out the turn after the 150, and then he's gonna pass Josh Kerr. Josh Kerr's gonna be so gassed. I don't care how fit he's gonna be so gassed. Jakob's gonna take the wind out of his sails. Jakob's gonna cruise past him for the win. And then Yard de Goose is gonna go way wide. He's gonna go and he's gonna get second. And then Cole Hawker is gonna dive at the finish line and he's gonna beat out Josh Kerr. And Josh Kerr doesn't medal. So, and Jakob wins. So, all right, we're gonna finish. Jakob Ingebrigtsen, 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 Jakob Ingebrigtsen. 39. This is the last line. The final line. Jakob Ingebrigtsen, 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 Jakob Ingebrigtsen is gonna win the freaking gold medal in the men's 1500. Boom! That was terrible. I think Andrew beat me. This whole video is taking 33 minutes. Someone wants to go do the math. I feel like Colin Fournier or like C. Patty would like go do the math of how long it took us. That's not a challenge. You don't have to do that, but I think he probably beat me, but I don't know exactly. Shout out to Enzo Blomany and Ethan Bay for commenting or being in the live chat of the saying Josh Kerr 1,500 times. Appreciate it, boys. I don't really know what else to say. I'm trying to think of what Andrew said. Yeah, anyway, I'm editing our Taco Bell video. It was recorded in like mid-June. I'm taking forever to edit, so bear with me. It will get out eventually. But yeah, we got more videos once season starts. About to be hype. Off season, if you want to join, give us video ideas. We'll film with you. We'll have some fun. Make sure like and subscribe. Turn the noties on. Ding, ding, ding. And yeah, I'm gonna go to work now. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Adios.